If you want a training plan to help you get through the winter training or your last remaining races, then we're here for you at Brownlee Fitness. We'll provide a plan that fits around your daily routine and will help you get to your next race in the best possible shape. Also, join a great community of triathletes who are here to support and inspire you throughout the winter. And I've got massive inspiration from the people that I train with. So now is your opportunity to be part of a great group of triathletes that come together, have great fun, and work hard to achieve their goals. So hopefully see you at Brownlee Fitness. If you want to hear more, go to brownleefitness.com or look at our socials, and enjoy the podcast, and hopefully see you on a Brownlee Fitness Zwift ride soon.
Welcome back, everyone, to Everyone Can Try podcast, episode 10. We are on the big 1-0. We are very excited today because we are joined by another special guest, Laura Siddell. And may I just say, she's got such an intro to go with it. She's a 5-time Ironman champion, and it also includes winning Ironman Australia for 3 consecutive years, which is just incredible, all the way through from 2017 to 19. She's also Ironman New Zealand, and she's also the ETU Eurpoean Long distance champion, which is just incredible. And we also want to say that she's actually joining us as a one-to-one coach for Brownlee Fitness, and also we're launching in the USA. So with that, I will let Johnny and Andy start away. But massive welcome, Laura.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. It's good to be here.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us firstly today, and also thank you for being part of Brownlee Fitness as well. Brownlee Fitness is now growing, so to have you on board is absolutely awesome. So I'll start off with a few questions. You were born in the UK, but the most important question first, you actually lived in Yorkshire for a while. Whereabouts was that?
I did. Funnily enough, just before we started recording and Andy was talking about Goldthorpe, I actually lived just outside of Barnsley in Yorkshire, in a tiny little place called Darfield. My dad was actually in the mining industry, so we moved up there. And then I went to school in Wakefield, so that's a little bit closer to Leeds. But South Yorkshire. It does come out every now and again.
Yeah, and Barnsley, poor you.
I know.
South Yorkshire. You must have swum. You must have swum at you must have swum at the Barnsley Metrodome, or whatever it was called back in the day.
Yeah, well, I didn't really swim that much when I was back in the UK, as you can probably tell with my swimming in my triathlon career. But yeah, we'd go to the Barnsley Metrodome for like birthday parties and that sort of thing. But yeah, I often, and then we ran at Cudworth, which was the Dorothy Hyman track. But I try and sort of limit my... I'm going to probably now cut off all the people that live in South Yorkshire, but yeah, try and limit my exposure or any reference to there for that bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that run track is still around now, but yeah, you actually came to the sport of triathlon quite late. So you did a lot of sport at school, like myself. But I actually was a triathlete since the age of about 6 years old. But you did all sorts of sport when you were at school. You were a 400-meter hurdler, and Andy was a 400-meter runner as well. And then you actually went to the British Army for a bit. I guess firstly, why was that? Why did you choose to join the British Army?
Yeah, do you know what? I can't fully remember, but it was a gap year that I did, or that they offered. So it was between school and university. And we had to have a place at university guaranteed to be able to do this, I guess, short service commission in the army. And I think my uncle was in the army, and I can't remember if it was that or just I saw it at kind of careers or stuff, but it just appealed. I wanted to take a gap year between school and university, but I didn't want to do the normal kind of what was when I was going through school, like you work for 6 months and then you go traveling for 6 months around the world. I kind of wanted to do something a bit different. And I think from my having, like you said, always played sport and really active, like the army and the military kind of just appealed. And yeah, it still probably is one of the best years of my life that I've had. It was absolutely brilliant from kind of the experiences and opportunity I had and the learning and things. So yeah, I did that I think I was in there for about 10, 11 months in the end, and then went on to university.
And do you think that background in sport and the army helped your triathlon career going forward, or was it just a bit? Well, obviously at that point you weren't a triathlete, but you actually look back now and go, that helped.
Yeah, I think always playing sport, like always being an active kid. I played, netball, hockey, most of the school sports that you did, athletics, running, and that sort of thing from a young age. And I think that level of like just training, although, you know, when you're young, it's just sort of turning up and having fun with your friends and things. But I think that having always trained and stuff, it kind of helped when I did then get into triathlon, because I was always, I guess when I moved to Australia with my corporate job, and I think from always doing sport when I was younger, I was looking for something when I was in Australia. And the running group I didn't really sort of gel with. They were a lot younger than me. As you said, I was quite a bit older at that point. And then so I just sort of, friends from work suggested triathlon. So I think it was just, having always done some kind of sport and always done training, it definitely helped. And particularly, I would say, like the strength and conditioning side of things, like doing athletics and netball, we always did strength gym work. And so that kind of, I think, crossed over into always being fairly prominent in my triathlon career as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. You definitely see some triathletes who have just done everything, just always done triathlon. My brother being a prime example of someone who went down that line of just doing triathlon. You know, I played a lot of football, cricket, rugby, and I like to think that stopped me getting too many injuries because I've had that resilience of multi-directional movements, that kind of upbringing of just doing a bit of everything. And also, if you commit to something too young and focus on it, then you actually just become very good at that, but not very good at everything else. And I think you do lose that background of just being all round sportsman. Like you see a lot of the athletes coming through now, like Kate Wath, for example. I used to go to the gym occasionally with her when she was in Leeds, and she was unbelievable. You know, you could give her a gym bar and she would know straight away how to pick it up and how to throw it around. Yeah. Whereas a lot of us would stand in the corner and be like, "Oh, I don't know what to do with this." But she was that kind of natural athlete. What age did you start taking triathlon seriously then?
Well, I started as a complete beginner when I was 29, and then I did like 4 or 5 years as an age grouper, as an amateur, doing sprints and Olympics and that sort of thing. So. And then decided to kind of go all in and take my professional license. Obviously, I kind of made some improvements. When I was age 34, which is older than most people who are racing now. And I was sort of kind of just starting the sport, and or at an age where most professional athletes are sort of thinking about retiring. And I was just starting. So, it was a lot. I think I was racing recently, and you know, some of the girls were in their early 20s, and I was like, gosh, I hadn't even thought of the sport at that point. So a lot later than most.
Yeah, that's making me feel a little bit better in my career, because at 35 now, I feel like I'm getting towards the end, but you just starting. I guess the easy question for that is, might be quite an obvious one, but do you believe if you started earlier, you would have been significantly better, or do you actually think that background before helped?
Oh, a good question. I would have liked to start a few years earlier. I think when you start 34, whilst I felt obviously young and new into the sport, like I think like now I look back and I think there are so many other races I would have loved to have done. And I do think like when I kind of found like my latest coach, Julie Dibbons, like I wish I'd have started training with her a few years earlier, because I think I could have still achieved a little bit more for me as an athlete. I would have liked to have started the sport earlier, just because it's also a fantastic sport, right? And, you know, it's lifestyle as well. And we get to, you know, I always picked or tried to pick like cool races in different locations. So having that opportunity to do some different races for a bit longer, I would have liked. I don't know, starting early on, it's a tricky one. I was kind of at that age where I was just a couple of years older than when they started bringing in all the talent identification. So they started that and they were looking for like people that were sort of under 16 and under 18. And I was just sort of that 19, 20. And so I kind of not regret, because I can't regret it because I've had a great experience, but I wish I'd maybe been able to be in that talent identification program when they brought it in the UK. Whether that would have put me down triathlon, I don't know. I think maybe like rowing or something like that, because my dad was a rower. But and that would have been the only thing of like maybe trying to get some testing or specifics to say, yeah, you are very physically able, but these are the sports that we think you would be best suited, and then to go in that. You know, as a kid, I think like most of us do, I always I loved the Olympics, obsessed by sport, but I kind of never thought it was something that was possible for me because of, the age I was at. Sport was always kind of the hobby. So yeah, I would have liked to probably do triathlon for a few years more.
The talent ID, sorry, the talent ID you were talking about there, that was obviously after the British team's not great performance in the, is it 1996 Olympics, and they started to introduce all the talent ID?
Yeah, and I think also it was around the time where the bid for 2012 was going in as well, maybe. Might have been just before that, but I think, I remember also playing netball when I grew up. Australia was the netball nation, and they were the ones that were winning everything. And they obviously had the Australian Institute of Sport and were very established. And I think kind of the UK to some extent were kind of looking across at that. And so, brought in talent ID programs. And I think that led into, the 2012 Olympic bid as well. But
a few athletes
came that performance, or poor performance at the Olympics.
Yeah, a few athletes came through that. Like I know Lizzie Armistead, the cyclist around here. She was, literally at a local school that British Cycling came into, and put her on a bike turbo, whatever. Found out you could do X number of watts for a minute, 5 minutes, and then got into it. So it was pretty amazing. And rowing obviously is another great example, because I think they can pretty much determine how good you're going to be from being on a rowing machine. So that's another one. But so you were world age group champion in London in 2013, which wasn't the greatest day for me. But I got out-sprinted by Javier, and then can second the world title. And that was one that Alistair was cheering me on and called me a tactile numpty. But so was it after that you thought, right, I can really give this a go?
Yeah, I guess so. As a age grouper, I'd been doing sprints and Olympics, and I was getting better and better, and people in Australia sort of started saying, oh, you should take your pro card, or you should turn professional. And at the time I kind of was like, well, I'm not really sure what that means, but looking at it, I was like, well, one, there's an age thing. I'm too old to kind of do the short course, the World Triathlon, or ITU as it was back then, and also my swim isn't good enough, but also like I think to be professional in that end of in the shorter distance, like you had to really be in a federation program, and obviously I hadn't been through that, so that meant I was like I was going to go up the distance, which kind of probably, again, age, female, endurance kind of sports was probably better suited to me anyway. And so I raced and I'd qualified for the Ironman 70.3 World Championships in 2013, which were in Las Vegas. And I raced there. I won my age group and was kind of overall female amateur winner. And then actually the week later went straight to London to like do the age group Olympic distance and won there. So it was kind of after that year, that Vegas race, and then being able to defend in London, that I was kind of like, okay, it's kind of now or never. Not getting any younger, and sport's not going to wait around, whereas the corporate world will, and sort of didn't want to look back 10 or 20 years time and think what if. Like I said, sport had been a massive part of my life growing up, but I'd never really given it that full chance. So this was that opportunity then.
That's quite a turnaround from Vegas to London.
Yeah.
We've got a few athletes in Brownlee Fitness and coaches, Adam, for example, who have won their world age group champs. I guess, what tips do you have for those guys? When do they know when to take the plunge, when to go for it, how to do it? Should they get things lined up beforehand, or at some point you just have to go for it?
Yeah. so I think at some point you just have to go for it, and you just have to take that leap. Like, people asked, what did I do? And I did like a very rough calculation of finances on like the back of an envelope type of thing. And then I threw it away and put my head in the sand and went, oh, I don't really want to know that kind of side of it. Because if I look at the finances of trying to make it like I'm not going to take the leap. And of course, I wasn't doing it for a financial reason. It was just to kind of say, okay, I've never given sport that chance. So if I fully commit, how good can I be? I would definitely say to people, like, don't necessarily rush into taking your pro card. I think whilst on paper, your age group result might look really competitive against the pros, I think it's quite different racing. And I would certainly say, like, get a lot of, or, spend a couple of years getting really good race experience as an age grouper, even if that is and making sure, you're winning your age group, winning overall amateur, or at least podiuming. And I think that was one thing for me, was I wanted to make sure I won my age group and hopefully the overall amateur at the world champs, because that for me was validation that I was like, okay, maybe I can now take that step and give it a chance. But I think for most people, it's just understanding like the why and being really clear on why you want to do it. Like, if it's a financial reason, then you're in the wrong sport. You need to go and do something else. But if it is to kind of challenge yourself and put yourself up against the best, even if you know that at first you might be way, way back down the field. And as long as you can cope with that, because that can be quite tough as well. So I think for a lot of people, it's just being really clear on that why, and realistic in terms of, okay, my results on paper say this, understanding that professional race is quite different. Like, a lot of the time you can be maybe not so much now because the depth is getting better, but I remember some of my first early pro races, and especially over the full distance, I didn't see another pro or athlete for like 180 kilometers on the bike sort of thing, which is very different to racing in an age group race where you're in waves of athletes, and then you're on the bike, you're always kind of with people or passing people. So there's an element of take the leap and go for it and give it a shot, but just being, I think, really clear on what that why is and that reason for doing it.
No, I agree with that. I also think it's quite important to get some good coaching advice at that time as well, because we see it it's different but similar when a young athlete comes out of school and goes full time and goes, right, I'm full time now, I can now train for 45 hours a week. And one of my coaches, Malcolm, who we talked to last week, was very big at keeping in university, at least in some way, because it's kind of quite a good bridge between the being at school and full time, and have something else in case things are going wrong, but also to slow you down, because what you actually need to prioritize when you go full time is rest rather than training. You can rest more rather than train more. Because there's only so much the body can handle, especially if one week you're training 20 hours, the next minute you're training 35 hours, a big increase. But I agree. Yeah,
I think that's really true. And in fact, like, I would say that's the biggest thing. Like, when you go full time or go for professionally, it's not the hours that you're increasing, it's definitely the rest. And then it's the quality of the sessions and the variety of the sessions that you can do. You can do those more intense sessions, you can do the lower recovery sessions, but it is the rest and the sleep and that side of things that is you have a better ability to manage. So definitely with coaching support and advice, and that understanding that it doesn't just mean you're going to bump up the hours. And also, I think you're right in terms of having another, when I say distraction, or another hobby. Like, I remember when I first went full-time pro, and I'd obviously left the corporate world, and my coach at the time almost said to me, what, you actually now need another hobby? And I was like, well, I've just, this is my hobby, but now it's your profession. So I do think having something else that you can do, like, almost like you said, if you get injured and that sort of thing, but not even that, just to have something else to think about in day-to-day life, so that triathlon doesn't become all encompassing, and then that can become kind of this bigger pressure than what it is at the time, and can sort of almost shackle you in your training and performance.
Yeah, definitely. And then next, you obviously won Ironman Australia 3 times in a row. Why Ironman Australia? Why was that such a dominant one for you?
Because no one else went there to race, I think, would be my reasoning. But that's
you can't say that.
Yeah, I don't know. It was my first like Ironman that I won, so it was kind of special. I guess it was special as well because I started the sport in Australia, so Ironman Australia was a very popular race to do for all the club that I was with, and everyone would travel up, and it had a big triathlon club community up there, and everyone would, their tents would be out on the run course and that sort of thing. And I just think the course suited me. It was quite a tough kind of like the roads aren't great in Australia, and it's potholes, and it was sort of quite hilly and rough. So I guess it was a sort of a longer course in terms of duration and time, which played to my strengths. It was sort of like the gnarlier the better. And I just then loved it, and had three fantastic years there, where I think there is an element of luck in racing. So was just lucky from that perspective, but also just I think it kind of suited where I was at the time.
And which would you say is your better performance? The 7th at the St George for the postponed World Championships, or I guess all Australia, or I was going to say 10th in Kona?
Oh gosh, I think out of the 3 Ironman Australia, it's hard to kind of differentiate. The first one's always special. Defending is great, and then the third time I think was probably the one I remember, just because I had like a rough couple of months leading in. But then to compare that to like 7th at St George and 10th in Kona, I think when I turned professional, like I would have never dreamt of getting a top 10 in Kona. Like even probably winning a race wasn't, it was just to be the best I could be and see how good I could be. And so when the World Champs was announced that it was going to St George with the delays from COVID, it was again super exciting because that's a course that probably plays to my strengths more. So I think that was exciting because the opportunity was there. And so to deliver and get that top 10 was really, really special. But I think also, the esteem that Kona has, and the place that a lot of people put Kona on the sort of the triathlon calendar, and the history it has there, getting that Umeki Bowl, what we call it, if you get that top 10 and being up on stage, I think doing it in the same year, so getting the 2 top 10s, that's probably got to be pretty good.
And how did you prepare for Kona? Was it for the heat? Because we're always quite interested in that. Because I've never quite got it right, but I think if I was to race Kona, I'd have to live there for about 10 years beforehand. So how did you actually prepare for it? Because people say that if you go there too early, you end up basically shattered, and then by the time the race comes along, you're just cooked, and then you basically want to get off the island because you're so tired. But there's only so long you can spend in the heat chamber. So how did you prepare for it?
I think it's true. It's getting that balance with arriving in Kona, enough time to kind of adjust but not cook yourself. And also, Kona's not that exciting place to train and ride. It's like one road, which is the Queen K, which is a highway, and there are some other great rides, but there's sort of the other sides of the island, so it's a bit more tricky. And if you're doing efforts, what we did for Kona, what we used to go on a training camp leading into Kona, and we'd go to somewhere like Kansas. So it's actually, as odd as it sounds, it actually kind of replicates Kona quite well. So it's kind of hot, humid, windy, and it's got this rolling terrain, and then there is nothing else there to do. So you can kind of there's no distractions. You can just focus on training. But then we'd also do so we did that in 2022. And then in 2023, we didn't do a camp, but I would do heat sessions. So whether that's going and sitting in the sauna after a training session, or on the bike with hoodie, leggings, and that sort of thing. Not doing massive intensity sessions on the bike when you're overdressed, but just sort of getting used to that discomfort. And then I would tend to go out to Kona like 10 days, 2 weeks before. So you get a few key sessions in, but then you're sort of in that taper, and then just being really careful to make sure you're getting that hydration and recovery and not cooking yourself before you get to the race.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And well, a few of our athletes will be similar, who come from maybe not a stronger swimming background. So it's interesting to know how what was the biggest swim week you ever done? Yeah, you ever did, and any tips for kind of what to do? Because I see people who say I want to improve my swimming, so I'm going to swim 10 times a week, and then end up improving a little bit. But then when they suddenly start swimming 6 times a week, the swimming goes back to where it was before.
Yeah.
So I guess any tips of how to improve your swimming consistently?
So the first part of that question, the biggest weeks, I think I'm in kilometers still. I think I've done an over 30K week for a month. So like over 30 kilometers sort of consistently for a month. But that was a specific sort of, let's do a swim challenge. And then in December, just gone, was it just gone? Yeah, made sure I swam every day, whether it was just getting in to do a kilometer or whether it was our longer sessions. Swimming is the tricky one. And especially if you're not a swimmer or didn't grow up swimming, because you can put so much effort into it and you get such marginal gains. Whereas I think if you put the effort into the bike and run, you see the improvement a lot quicker or bigger differences. Yeah. I think for me as a swimmer, it's kind of consistency. So it's trying to get in the water regularly and frequently, even if it's just a short time in the water, but just to try and keep that feel for the water. I think you have to be careful with swimming as well. Like you said, Johnny, like you could go in and do 10 times, however many times a week, and you see that little bit of improvement. You go back to a few times less and it drops back. But you've got to get that balance between the fatigue, obviously, and still having those quality sessions. I also think for me, like getting a few technical coaching sessions, so swim technique. Yes, you just want to be able to get in the water and swim, but if you have a few tips that just makes that you get the technique right, it certainly helps. And I think for swimming and triathlon, it's not necessarily like for those people that came into swimming later, it might not be getting your swimming 5-10 minutes quicker, but it's getting through the swim as efficiently as possible so you can conserve your energy for the bike and the run. So it might not be that your swim is getting better or faster, but you're getting more efficient and you're conserving energy doing it. So then you've got more for the bike and the run. But yeah, so that's kind of like touching the water or whatever you want to call it as often as you can, just to keep that feel. And then a couple of coach technique sessions helped me.
I agree with that. And the consistency is definitely really important. And it's sometimes for a lot of the UK guys, it's not as easy as it sounds, isn't it? Because sometimes for us going to a pool is a bit of a faff. Whereas when you go to Australia or Boulder, you basically just jump in and off you go.
Yeah.
And I would quite like to go to the pool to swim outside. That costs me a few dollars. I know I'm going to get a lane, but then going to fight the old ladies at the local pool is not as attractive.
I have so much respect for everyone doing triathlon in the UK, because I think like the times when I'm home and trying to find a pool, and it's unless you're based at like a high, or near a high performance centre, and you can go to Loughborough or Leeds or whatever. Like I'm going to my local leisure centre, as we'd still call it, and it's half the time the pool's not even laned and it's just sort of free for all, and you can't use toys and you can't do this and this. So very lucky being in Australia, where there was like a 50-meter pool on every corner, and even here in Boulder. So it's a difficult one, that for sure.
And obviously you raced all around the world and lots of great results, but the actual race I'm most interested in is the Patagon Man. You say, I always called it Patagonian Man or something, but anyway, Patagon Man. What was that like? That looked absolutely incredible. I really want to go and do it at some point.
It's definitely an amazing race. It's definitely like an adventure race that you do. It's an iron distance, but you're swimming in, I think they actually shortened our swim because it was so cold. It was 8 degrees C when we swam. So you're definitely in sort of cold water, but it's an incredible experience. You jump off a boat in the dark. You've got like the backdrop of these snowy mountains behind. And then Yeah, it's an adventure race because the bike is then an A to B course, and you basically cycle across the width of the country. And you have your own crew there, which I think also is unique to triathlon because, although we have our team, we have our coaches, we have our, physios or whatever, when you actually race, it's on your own. But Patagon Man, because your crew is there with you and they're the ones meeting you to give you your drinks and your food, or take clothing off when or give you more clothing to wear if the weather turns and that sort of thing. And then the run is one of them. I think the bike course the swim's amazing. The bike course is stunning, but the run was spectacular. I think it's just slightly over a marathon. It's about 44 kilometers, I think. And the first half of it is predominantly uphill. And then obviously the second half is predominantly downhill, but it's just in the middle of nowhere. Like, I didn't see anybody until I kind of got to my crew. The first time you can meet your crew, I think, is about 30 kilometers. And then one of them can run with you for the last section. But up until then, it was just me in the middle of Patagonia with the mountains, the lakes, this just like dirt track in front of me because it's off-road. And it was just, really incredibly beautiful, stunning, spectacular, kind of an experience. You hope you were still on like the right race course sort of thing. I did hear one lady, she went around in a circle and ended up back at like T2 after about 30 kilometers. Not recommended. But it's and just the people there are so amazing. It's such a local race. They're so friendly. You get to the finish line and there's the famous bell that you ring, but then all the locals have little craft stalls out by the finish and food. And it's definitely a worthwhile adventure race experience to do. It's for sure definitely a bucket list.
I definitely do that. And would you say that the proudest moment of your career was coming back from the crash in 2023, and then coming back to you made Kona that year, so coming back to race in that? Would you? Because some of my proudest racing moments have actually been not the best results, just the ones that have actually come back from something and gone, I had an awful season. I was injured, I was ill or whatever. I had a bike crash, but I pulled it back. So would you say that's your most proud year? Yeah.
Actually, when you were talking just earlier about like which races, was it sort of Australia or the 2 top 10s in World Champs? And I was actually thinking, that Kona result in 2023 was probably one that I am proud of. Obviously I had a crash in May that year. I was hit by a car during a race on the bike leg and suffered a brain bleed and a TBI. I was lucky that they gave me a wild card to Kona because I don't think I would have been able to get back to do a race to qualify. So I was fortunate they gave me that I think off the back of like my results the year before with the 2 top 10s. And also I was in second place at the time in the race that it happened. And so getting back to that race, and then I finished 16th in Kona that year, which doesn't sound as good as those 2 top 10s, and unfortunately it was like that one place outside the paycheck money, which was annoying, but it was my fastest ever time in Kona over the years. And yes, we had a particularly fast year that year, but I was like the last athlete that went under 9 hours. So 16 of us went under 9 hours, and my time would have won it. I think my time was the same as Marinda Carfrae had done when she'd won several years earlier. Obviously there were 15 people still in front of me, but getting back to that start line and being in Kona after like that year that I'd had was definitely, I think you're right. It's kind of those moments where you kind of can bring yourself back from adversity in whatever form that is. Just to be back on the start line to start with, and then get through a race and get back to, and get to a finish line.
And the times you said it got so much significantly quicker. Is that down to aerodynamics and nutrition and a bit of training, but mainly the first 2? Would you say?
I think there's a lot more focus on aerodynamics and equipment, and I think sort of bikes technology. The bikes have improved, obviously running shoes as well.
Oh yeah.
And I think then, the nutrition, the work that's been doing in there, and like sort of the fueling. I know if you look back in the early years of Kona, and I think, people were doing it on a couple of Mars bars or a sandwich or something like that. So I think, mainly sort of that evolving of equipment, technology, the nutrition. And then also I just think to some extent a belief in what our bodies are able to do. Like if you go back to the 4-minute mile and Roger Bannister, as soon as he breaks it, it sort of like opens the floodgates, so to speak. And I think as soon as you get an athlete into the sport that raises the bar and shows what's possible, it makes everyone else start to believe that they are capable of that and they can improve and step up. And we've seen that over the years with different athletes coming into the sport and being those sort of game-changing athletes and leading the way that has then taken the sport forward and evolved it. So kind of combination.
And then lastly, I guess you signed off your last professional race in Roth this year, or however you pronounce it. I've heard Roth being pronounced about 10 different ways.
Yeah.
You're not retired. I refuse to call it a retirement.
Thank
you.
I
guess my my two questions on that, and one is just a bit of a kind of from a personal point of view, is when do you know the time's right?
Yeah.
And then secondly is what's the plan next? I reckon it opens up quite a lot of free time to finally do races that you actually really want to do that you kind of missed out on.
Thank you for not calling it retirement, because I'm really struggling with that word, because it makes me feel like I should be sort of 60 or 70 and sitting at home doing nothing else. So let's call it transition. When do you know the time's right? A really hard one. I think going off the back of 2022 and going into 2023, and I was at that point at the age. Well, let's go back. Be very quick. With my previous coach I was with, and I was wanting to change coaches, but I was coming up to being 40 in age. And I was kind of like, do I really want to change coach if I'm going to be retiring soon? Because the 40 was that kind of like age you should be retiring. Anyway, then I changed coach, started working with Julie Divins, and it's almost like she gave me a new lease of life in my triathlon. And from the back of 2021 into 22 and into the start of 2023, I probably had some of the best years of my career. And I was really excited going into 2023 that I still, even at the age of 42, 43, I still had areas where I could personally improve, and I could see that and I could believe in that. So I think as long as you can still see that you can improve and you're enjoying it, then you keep going. I think the crash then sort of did alter that. And so almost like life and age caught up on me. And so it was a lot harder after that to get, I was lucky I got back to Kona, I went to Patagonia, but then since then it was really difficult. And I think I then just got to a point of going, financially, it's hard to make this sustainable. Physically, it's hard for my body to do the same as I used to be able to do, but more like the recovery and things. And just mentally, I've done this for 10 years. I am at an age now where I'm now living in Boulder. In the winter, I want to be able to go off skiing or cross-country skiing or skimo for the weekend and not stress that, or feel guilty that I should be doing a swim session or I should be doing that bike ride. I want to go off and do other hikes and adventures and explore, still obviously being active, still running, still biking in various forms. I have voluntary gone to swim practice 3 times since I finished racing, but still being active because it is so much of our lifestyle, but just being able to do those different fun challenges, adventures, races, whatever it is. And I think, when do you know? It's really difficult, and everyone I think is individual on that, and it's all for different reasons. As an athlete, you do want to go out on your own terms, you want to have that control, but often that is such a privileged position to be in, because for most athletes it's an injury or it's something that alters their career and probably has a say. So for me, I was kind of determined to come back to racing to make sure that it was on my own terms. I didn't have the race I wanted in Roth. I think that's kind of the fairy tale is very small percentage in unique as well. But at least I kind of got back, and then I was just, the body and mind was saying, it's time to do something different, and things like that.
Yeah, I think very few athletes get the fairy tale ending, don't they?
Yeah.
And because one of the reasons, I guess, is if you end that way, you go, maybe I've got a couple of years left in me, so I'll keep on going. So I guess when you're training for that final race, were you going into it going, this might be the last ever Thursday bike session I do, or the last ever hard swim I do, or do you not have that in your back of your mind because you knew you're going to stay active? I know it's slightly different between staying active and then doing a Thursday bike session.
It is, there is that difference between, like, even now I'm finding, like I said, I've sort of gone to swim sessions, but there's definitely that pushing that top level has disappeared, and I'm hoping it, to some extent, it may come back in time, and it might just be I need this time where I just want to turn up and move and be with the squad and get the community. I did at times think, this might be the last time I do this hard session, or I have to do something like this. I think also that comes with a slight bit of sadness, because it's an incredible feeling to feel that fit, or to feel the fitness and to have those endorphins. So it was a kind of a mix of going, this is the last time I potentially have to do this hard swim or whatever. But also then it was like, actually, this is probably the last time I'm ever going to feel this kind of fitness or this fit. So I think it's then rephrasing it afterwards to, okay, what does fitness now look like? What does fitness now feel like? What does exercise or training feel like? But also I think it was such a big ask for me to get back to that race. You've also got like the focus on the race. So not hugely thinking, this is the last time, or like trying to think this is the last time. So enjoy it. And you've put the training in, so you still want to you don't want to just tick off a box and plod around, so to speak, although that's what it kind of felt like in the race and my time. But you want to put that effort in because you put the training in, so you're still focused on a good performance. But I think you've just got to recognize and make sure you are being present and enjoying all those moments and training sessions going into it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I also think it's important you said there about you change it from once you have moved on to the next stage of your life, it becomes exercise and fresh air rather than training sometimes. And that's a bit different in an athlete mentality, because training is all about doing that specific session and nailing it and making sure the watts are all perfect and the efforts are perfect. Exercise is about going out with some friends, and if it turns into a bit of a race, then who cares?
That's it. If I want to smash myself up this hill, I can, and if I suffer on the back of that, that's okay, because I've not got a run or a swim to back it up with. I can do that sort of thing. For sure.
No, definitely. Well, thank you. That's been absolutely fascinating. And also for all our Brownlee Fitness members and everyone else, if you want Sid to be your personal coach to help you out, then you know where we are. And thank you for helping grow Brownlee Fitness in America as well. So thank you very much.
No, well, thanks for having me on. It's great to connect, and I'm really excited about like the next few months and going onwards, and bringing Brownlee Fitness to the USA, but also like learning off you guys, and you guys have done so much for the sport as well. So hopefully we can continue that on.
Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Laura. It was honestly a pleasure to hear your story, and super excited for you coming on to Brownlee Fitness. And there's more females in the group that I'm very happy about.
There we go.
Very nice. And thank you so much to everyone listening. For Athlete of the Week, we have Ruth, which is very exciting. She actually came first in her age group at Leeds Ironman, which is amazing. So you will hear from her shortly. So welcome, Ruth, to our Athlete of the Week section, and also massive congratulations for being our Athlete of the Week.
Thank you.
Anytime. So tell me a little bit about how did you get onto multisport?
It was through my husband, really. After I'd had the kids, he started cycling, and then him and his friends signed up to do Ironman Bolton many years ago, and I went to watch with all the wives, and I remember saying to everyone, "This is amazing. I want to do this. Who's up for it with me?" And no one would do it with me. But I kind of carried it on and got a bike and then just did it a few years later after COVID.
Oh, wow. And what would you say your favourite discipline is out of the three? Swim, bike or run?
It changes. I think it changes at the moment. It used to be running and biking. And I'd always say to myself, if I can get out of the swim, I will complete this. But now I'm really enjoying my swimming. But I think my bike will always be the favourite.
Love that. And now you're in it, how do you feel doing multisport? Like, how's your life look like now when you do it?
It's busy, but I managed to juggle it around other things, around work and around family and around my friends. And I think I try and just get the best of everything, really. Yeah.
Love that. And I know that you had a really great win at Leeds Ironman. Congratulations. How did the race go?
It just went great. It wasn't the best lead up to the race at all for me. I had a problem with my road bike, and I didn't have a road bike for months, and I ended up doing most of my training on my gravel bike, and then someone lent me an old road bike, and then the week before Ironman Leeds I got my new bike, and everything just seemed to come together on the day.
Wow, incredible. And how would you say, being part of the Brownlee Fitness Squad, what would you say your favourite thing is about it?
It's great. There's always advice on hand. I think that the training plan I cannot fault. I've always just followed a book for my training plan or just done as I want. And this year I've followed my training plan, and I have had to tweak bits, but it's made a massive difference to where I am. I feel like I'm the strongest I've ever been. But it's so friendly, so inclusive. It's always people there to help. It's great, yeah.
Love that. And what was your training like before Brownlee Fitness?
It was just really following a triathlon book that I'd got, or getting advice from people that I knew, but everyone had different types of advice. But I started following the Brownlee plan, must have been over the winter months, and I did a lot of interval training with my running, a lot of Zwift work. And it's made a massive difference this year. It really has, yeah.
It definitely has, especially with Leeds. Like, massive congratulations that you can definitely see it in all your photos as well. And last question, if you've got one, what would you say your most embarrassing moment has been in multi-sport so far?
Most embarrassing. I'm trying to think. I think I had a really dodgy stomach once when I was coming through the finishing line, and I was literally running for the toilet. But at the same time, all my family and all my children were wanting to like high five me. And my husband's got this video of me just like running past them and running straight out to finish the race just to get it over with.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, once you've got it, then you really need to go. That's always the way, isn't it? Oh, well, thank you so much, Ruth. Honestly, massive congratulations from us for being Athlete of the Week. And yeah, we love seeing your training and everything you're doing. So massive congratulations and thanks for joining us on the podcast.
No problems. Thank you for having me.
Anytime. And we look forward to seeing everyone on our next episode, on episode 11. Topic will yet to be confirmed. And thank you to everyone listening. Please share on your stories, socials. And if you've got value or want to ask us questions, just email me, grace@brownleefitness.com, and we can get your questions answered. And thank you so much for listening.